What is going on, guys? We are back for another episode of our trade breakdown series. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you guys through exactly how I made just under $2,000 on PLTR calls in just under 1 hour. I'm going to walk you guys through this trade step by step from start to finish. Let's get into it right now. All right, guys, we are back with another very highly requested trade breakdown episode. You guys went absolutely crazy on the last Google recap video. If you guys are enjoying these videos, please don't forget to leave us a like. That helps out a ton. And as always, guys, per usual, this was recorded and traded live inside the Discord. If you guys are interested in joining us for daily live trading and daily live streams, please make sure you guys check out that link below in the replies and join us inside. You guys can use the code STREAM20 and get 20% off. With that being said, let's get right into this trade on PLTR, guys. This was an absolutely fantastic mover. I want to walk you guys through exactly how I identified this trade the night before, so last night, and exactly what caused me to take my entry, where I scaled my exits, etc. And I want to walk you guys through the entire process of this trade. So as always, guys, I try to keep things as simple and as easy to understand as possible. Palantir is one of my favorite stocks to trade. It trades really, really well, respects daily support and resistance really well, and it really reacts to key pivots on the chart, which we're going to talk about a little bit more here. But like I said, guys, let's get into exactly why I took this trade and why it was on my radar in the first place, because I think that's the biggest value add of these videos. So this actually relates back to a trade I took last week on Palantir, which was a short trade. I took puts at the $16 level. And if you guys haven't noticed yet, this $16 level on Palantir is a really, really big spot. This is what we call a key pivot on a higher time frame, which in this case is the daily chart. We can tell that this is a key pivot, guys, because you can clearly tell that Palantir had very strong support at this $15.97 into the $16 zone back here right in middle of July. You can see before we made that big move up to 20, guys, the area of support, so the area that we based at was this $16 price point, right? So we know that we had major support there on the Palantir daily chart. We also know that old support becoming new resistance is bearish. And like we talked about in this case for that short trade last week on Palantir, you can tell that we had two major rejections at this $16 level, guys. And both times we got huge moves down, right? One here on the 17th and one here last week on Palantir, right? What that is illustrating when we get these really large scale moves to the downside after rejecting at this key level on the daily chart, guys, that's illustrating that is a major point of resistance on this chart. Otherwise, we wouldn't be rejecting so hard, right, at that level. But sellers coming in there and sellers coming in with velocity really illustrates how important of a pivot this truly is, right? So let's walk into kind of a tighter time frame now, and we're going to look at where Palantir closed. We're going to still look at the daily here one more time, guys. The reason being is I want to show you guys. So we closed yesterday on Palantir, guys. The close on yesterday's candle was at 1540, right? Now, the reason, keep that in mind because it's going to be very important, but that 1540 area was a really, really important spot because given the fact that we have such a huge key pivot at this 16 level, we know that traders are likely going to want to see that level retested, right? Especially when Palantir looks like it's trying to form, somewhat of a bottom here at this $13 area, right? We had 1, 2, and now this is our third time bouncing off of that 13 area, right? So with yesterday's close there, my entire thesis with this trade was that we were at least going to get a test of the $16 level. We showed a lot of relative strength here on Palantir yesterday and in pre-market and after hours trade yesterday into today. So again, my thought process coming into the day is this is the Palantir hourly chart, right? So we're going to move into a tighter time frame now on Palantir, guys. And the area at which I wanted to take an entry was our support from yesterday. You guys can see how yesterday on Palantir, we just gapped up and then we went sideways, right? When we just gap up like that and go sideways, that's bad action for shorts because shorts don't want to be shorting sideways action, right? Because more oftentimes than not, sideways consolidation like that in uptrends like this on the hourly time frame lead to bigger moves, right? So if you guys notice where these hourly candles closed in the middle of the day yesterday, right? They took liquidity and closed these candles right at that 1530 level, right? And so coming into today, guys, my primary focus was a retest of that support at 1530 from yesterday. I was going to look to get long on a retest of 1530. I put that plan out for the Discord last night. And what do you guys know? We had a perfect opportunity come this morning on Palantir. So let's look at the 5-minute because this is really where I took my entry. This was strictly a day trade, guys. And so I'm going to walk you guys through my exact entry and why I took it exactly where I took it. Okay, so if you guys look, we opened up on Palantir, relatively strong candle. I was really patient off the open though. I immediately noticed on this second candle, guys, you guys can see how we printed this long lower wick. We had a lot of relative strength on Palantir versus the Qs, right? So if we look at QQQ, which is kind of the ETF that I really monitor intraday when trading tech and growth, same thing with ARK. But you guys can see that QQQ had a decent, relatively weak move, right? It was much weaker than Palantir was. That's illustrating to me that Palantir is showing a lot of relative strength to the overall market, right? So we came down, swept liquidity at this 1540 area, right? Keep that in mind. 1540 was yesterday's close, right? So we retested that key spot. We came 3 cents shy of my A+ target entry area, which was 1530. We touched 1533. I entered into the 15.5 calls on that wick off of 1530, guys. This is the 940 candle on Palantir. You guys can see my entry right here, which I sent out to the Discord. I took the Palantir 15.5 calls at $30 per contract, and I took 100 contracts of those. So I risked in total $3,000 on this position, $3,100 on this position, okay? Now, you guys look, first off, I took basically the at the money calls here, right? Palantir was trading about 1540. 10 cents out of the money, but basically the at the money strike. I wanted to do that because trading weeklies, guys, sometimes I like to be exposed to less volatility after a big day like yesterday. So I took the at the money calls. These pretty quickly went in the money. As you guys can see here, we consolidated sideways on Palantir for 2 straight 5-minute candles after my entry. Since we had that sweep of liquidity at that key level, guys, I really could tell that level continually got bought up. We can see these long notable wicks down on the 5-minute. And my risk on this trade was relatively simple. It was a 5-minute close below 1530, right? So 1530 was our big support area from yesterday. A 5-minute close under there was my risk on this trade. We actually got a really nice move, guys, about 10 minutes after my entry, pushed up into this 1569 area. Now, the next thing I want to do is lay out my profit targets on this trade for you guys and kind of walk through it step by step. So take profit 1 for me, guys, was yesterday's high. And all we have to do in order to identify that is look back here on the Palantir 5 or 15 minute, and you can see that we made a high at 1563. So this was my first take profit point on Palantir, okay? And so I began locking some gains on this position. As you guys can see right here, I sold 30%. So I sold 30 of 100 contracts, guys. Was up 25% when we were testing up into yesterday's high at that 1563, 1564 area. I sold 45% of my position, up 31%, which was up here into this 1570 test. I began and continued to scale about half of my position total. I sold half my position, as you guys can see here, at 946, which if we look at the chart, you guys can see this 945 candle close into, right, just as we were breaking yesterday's high on Palantir. I locked about half my position, up 31%. Now, the only reason I had the luxury of being up 32% already, guys, was because I really prioritize entries at the best possible places of risk reward. And my A+ risk reward area here, guys, was that 1530 level, right? So my entry at 1535 really resulted in, a zero stress trade because I wasn't in drawdown at really any point. And like I said, we got a really nice continuation style move. Now I want to illustrate, really for me, guys, in total, this was about a 45% return total on the position itself, a little bit higher than that. I think a little bit closer to 50%. And if you guys look, I sold 80% of my position here, guys, at the 58% mark, which was at 9:55 a.m. So this is all Eastern Standard Time, by the way, but that was on our test of that 1580 area, right? So my I wanted to be 80% out of this trade prior to testing 16, right? Because that 16 was such a major point of resistance. That was really my firm target on this trade, was into that 16 area. And I was going to leave 20% of my position to run if we broke 16, right? Because obviously I knew that would be a big breakout level over what has been a major area of resistance. Now, have we been seeing crazy consistent breakouts in this market lately? No, we haven't. but that's why I only held 20% of my position. Profits were locked on this trade. Stop got moved up to break even, and that gave me the luxury of being able to allow 20% of my position to run, which, as you guys will see, resulted in a much larger profit on this trade, right? I sold 85% of my position here, guys, at 65% on Palantir. And like I said, I left 15 runners. So I left 15% of my position to run. Now, normally I am not a huge fan of rolling up. However, we got a really A+ opportunity on Palantir, right? So I locked about 85% of my position into this 16 test right here, guys. I only had 15% of my position left. However, we got a retest of yesterday's high. You guys can see this 5-minute candle, right? We got this really nice hammer, swept liquidity at yesterday's high, wicked right up off that level. When we printed that candle, guys, that to me is really one of the most bullish forms of price action, is when you retest yesterday's high, sweep liquidity, and then wick up really, really aggressively like that. That is illustrating that there are really strong buyers in the tape, right? At least to me. And so what I did was I actually rolled up and used half of my profits to enter the 16 calls at $23 per contract, and I sold 90% of my 15.5C. So those 15.5 calls that I bought right after the open, those were deep in the money at this point, guys. And then I took the 16 calls on that retest of yesterday's high and wick up. And really, guys, the trade went absolutely fantastic from that point. We ripped really hard into that 16.25 area. Palantir ended up going all the way to 16.30 today, guys. This was an absolutely massive move. And now I ended up closing the remainder of my position here on Palantir, guys. I closed out basically 98% of the 15.5 calls. You guys can see at this point, both of these were in the money. I closed out 98% of the 15.5 calls, left 2 runners at 125%, and I closed out 20% of the 16 calls as soon as they went in the money. I closed out 20% of that position at over 50%. And like I said, guys, this ability to identify relative strength like this intraday allowed me to make just under $2,000 in about an hour and 15 minutes on Palantir today. This was an absolutely fantastic trade that really illustrates the power, guys, of utilizing those key levels from yesterday and then your pre-market levels as well, guys. That was really what allowed me to take such an amazing entry here and let the trade work, right? Which we talk about all the time is really, really powerful. I think the other big takeaway that you guys might find helpful is that you can utilize these same levels on stocks to trade them long and short. I shorted Palantir and made $1,400 last week on puts using that $16 level of interest, and today I used that $16 level to go long and make just under $2,000 on these calls. So this is a really nice setup, guys, that I think you guys can utilize in the future. If you guys enjoy these videos, don't forget to leave me a reply letting me know what you'd like to see in the future, and leave us a like. As always, really appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.